Alright guys, so I'm gonna check out this American Renaissance video, and it's about race realism, and I thought to myself, they're gonna come up with credible ideas that are hard to debunk, but no, not really. These people are kind of dumbasses, and I was shocked at how easily I can debunk these statements.
Hello, I'm Jared Taylor with a...
How come Jared Taylor sounds like the guy from South Park, Mr. Mackey? Okay, you get me? I mean, yeah, this guy he has a huge head like Mr. Mackey, I mean, and he always talks the same way. He sounds really like a nice guy, like somebody's racist grandpa.
American Renaissance. What is race realism?
Racism renamed, I guess.
Return to common sense. People who should
Common sense for the Klan.
know better have blinded themselves to the obvious.
People who are white.
Race is a biological fact.
Alright. So I'm not agreeing that race can be measured biologically. What I'm disagreeing is, how do you measure race? Do you measure race by skull size? Because then it's going to be fucking irrelevant. Like you measuring race by foot size, because many races have similar size skulls, like the Ethiopian and a Italian. Well, depending on which Ethiopian, might have the same type of skull size, but I'm pretty sure a curly or woolly-haired Ethiopian does not have the same ethnic makeup as let's say, a Irishman or some shit like that. I mean, so you can't really compare skull sizes. You might as well just compare feet sizes if you want to just say fuck it. So do you compare to where they come from or where you originate? That have problems too, because as you know, many people migrated from different areas, maybe race mixed, like maybe your great grandfather race mixed and shit like that. So you can't really compare it like that. Do you compare skin tone? I mean, that's not going to work either. So there's a bunch of questions I may have, but hey, go on, man.
Human races are different. We'd like to think
They are.
knowledge accumulates over time, but not in this area.
Yes, knowledge, we like to think that knowledge accumulates over time. Like, when I was a baby, I knew right after I came out of my mother's pussy that 2 + 2 is 4,
It's just about impossible to go to college without being told that race is not a biological fact. That it's...
I mean, if you have no objective way to measure it, then it's not. Sorry.
a social construct, just an idea.
Pretty much. I mean, shoot. Many people in Mexico identify themselves as white, just like many Middle Easterners are identified as white in the census. But there's Middle Easterners that are as dark as myself who are identified as white in the census. So are Latinos. I mean, a whole shitload of people.
But there are people who look like this. And this.
I love how he has the natives with the fucking spears, and then you have the white bitches just playing soccer with their uniforms. Fuck this guy.
And this.
Okay, and then he has all the fucking brown people, or all the people with a little bit of melanin. I bet he's gonna have them in native uniform, and then you're gonna have white people in fucking their Western clothes and shit.
And like this.
Okay, so he showed black people 2 times. I wonder why he won't show any Amish people or, people in Europe freezing to death and East Europe and shit like that.
These are obvious biological differences.
Yes.
These differences look like social constructs to you.
I mean, depending on how you measure them, yeah.
Companies like 23andMe can tell exactly what your racial makeup is.
Okay, they can tell your ethnic makeup. Racial makeup is depending on you. Like, for instance, East Asian and Native American, for some fucking reason, is put on the same level when you know that East Asians are not Native Americans. I don't go to my friend Umar and say to him, "Hey man, you look like a Cherokee and shit like that." That would be pretty dumb. But hey, this guy seems like he's pretty white. He's 99.3% European. Okay, so let's see. Oh, he's Irish. He's part Irish. That means he's a white nigger. So he's not really fully white, according to what they say. Oh, and we have somebody who's Scandinavian. I mean, I just got the Irish reference, so hey.
Even how much of you is British, Scandinavian, Iberian, Native American, right down
Are Iberians considered white? I mean, hey.
a fraction of a percentage point. But that just proves that DNA sequencing machines are tricked by social constructs, right?
Nobody's saying that ethnicity is not real, my friend.
Even lice apparently are fooled by social constructs. That's why white children are 35 times more likely than black children to get head lice.
I wonder, how come no other real race with like straight hair gets head lice like that? I don't see East Asians getting head lice like that. I wonder why Mexicans with straight hair get head lice like that. I really wonder. I never heard of an East Asian get like head lice, like Indian or Pakistani. I never heard those people get head lice. I wonder. And they live in the fucking desert, man.
Now, take a look at these two skulls, especially.
I love how he got fucking these two skulls. I bet the right skull is some type of indigenous person and the left skull is some type of Asian person. The right skull have no fucking teeth. Have no fucking teeth. And some of the nose parts are actually missing. The right skull been mistreated and shit. But the left skull right here, it has a full load of teeth and shit like that. I guess he couldn't find a native with a full row of teeth and shit.
Around the eyes. One is Chinese and the other is Australian Aborigine. A 5-year-old child could tell them apart as easily as he could sort cucumbers and zucchinis.
All right. So that's because his teeth is missing and, shit like that. And, And I don't see him. I mean, there's a bunch of, he could have picked any of the native New Zealand skulls. How come he had to pick an Aborigine?
Are the differences between cucumbers and zucchinis a social construct?
Actually, cucumbers, that's a false equivalency. Cucumbers and zucchinis can't even have like offspring together, my friend. And I'm telling you, I dealt with both. It was hard to tell the difference when you cut it up.
Scientists at Ohio State University have found that you can tell someone's race just from the types of bacteria that live in his mouth.
That's probably because people live in different environments and shit like that.
There are all sorts of race differences. Gestation time, hair type, bone density, fat density.
Speaking of hair type, how come every race have curly hair? Like, I see a lot of white people with curly hair. I see a lot of black people with curly hair. I see a lot of people from South America with curly hair, South Asia. I seen even a few Far East Asians, North Africans with curly hair. That's something interesting. So he's talking about hair type. How come everybody have curly hair?
Distribution, average height, age at first menstruation, twinning rates, brain size, myopia rates, disease rates, etc.
Oh yeah, by the way, when it comes to brain size, it's irrelevant how small or large your brain is. Albert Einstein had a smaller brain than average.
Twinning. Black Africans have identical twins at about twice the white rate, and whites have them at about twice the East Asian rate.
I wish he'd gone into detail of why that might be, but hey.
Within races, there are substantial differences.
And how come he didn't mention any Far East Asians? Like, you know, it would be more believable that Far East Asians have a lot of twins.
This is the Olympic 100-meter final. Every runner is not just black, they are blacks of West African origin. That
Unless they're people, I hope they're persons of different tribes because some tribes, through genetics, have faster people because, you know, running from lions and shit like that.
That's the way it's been in every 100-meter final in the last 10 Olympics. It's bad enough to point out that Jamaicans make better sprinters than Mexicans. But if you point out that the average Japanese is smarter than the average Haitian, oh, watch out. But
About that, you know, I'd rather live in Japan than Hades, but they're also highly more depressed than the average Haitian. Because if you look at the Japanese suicide rate, it far surpasses the Haitian suicide rate. But the murder rate in Hades far surpass, I think, the murder rate in Japan. But Japan has a 99% conviction rate. So hey.
why would anyone think that every group is equal? Why would you think that South American Indians, for example, could build a high-tech society just like the Koreans? Why would you think Congolese could have come up with...
Oh yeah, speaking of the Koreans, I hope he's talking about South Koreans because North Korea, I hear that they're not even far better off than South Americans at this point. So hey.
nuclear physics or grand opera? There is no evidence at all.
Nuclear physics actually could lead to the destruction of the world thanks to nuclear bombs, you dick.
There are about 14,000 school districts in the United States. In every one, East Asians get better grades than whites.
I wish he gives us a citation for that. And the reason why that is because a lot of East Asians are actually immigrating to America. So we do a brain drain where from India we get their doctors, there's lawyers, their dentists. So that really helps out. And I'm not doubting the East Asian intelligence, but I wish he had a citation. 14,000 schools. All of them East Asians do better than all of them. I don't think in like North Dakota they have like a lot of East Asians and shit like that. So I would really like to see a citation.
Whites get better grades than blacks. Isn't the simplest explanation the most plausible? That Asians, on average, are naturally smarter than whites, and whites are smarter than blacks.
All right. If Asians on average are naturally smarter than whites, then how come there's mass poverty in India and China? Like, if they're just naturally smarter, like, oh shit, we're naturally smarter and shit. How come they don't have like floating cities in the sky where they have like 200 million on land and like 200 million in the sky and shit like that if they're naturally smarter?
Wherever you find Chinese, Hong Kong, San Francisco, Malaysia, Paris, Singapore, Berlin, or even right around the corner from where you live, they're doing well.
All right. So this is this is actually, I have to ask, wherever I find Asians, I mean, what about in the Philippines? What about in Vietnam? What about in North Korea? What about in most of mainland China where they have mass poverty and shit like that?
Wherever you find blacks, they're usually not doing so well.
Damn, that's fucked up. Really, wherever you find them? I mean, you realize that Africa has lower poverty than China. You realize that, you fucking asshole. Now, according to statistical data, the last statistical data that was gathered, Africa, which is Sub-Saharan Africa, only has 47% of people living under $1.90. Guess how many people in China live under $1.90? About 88% of the Chinese population lives on less than $1.90. So about half of Sub-Saharan Africa is poor, while over 88%, nearly to 90% of people in China lives about $1.90. So Africa actually has a lower poverty rate than China as a whole.
Is this a worldwide white supremacist plot?
Yes, it's called colonialism. Yes.
As the authors of the book, The 10,000-Year Explosion, point out, the chances of every population group having evolved into a state of equality is as likely as tossing a hand.
All right, so every population group evolving into equality, Bud, the Europeans only really got their shit together in the last 200 to 300 years or so. Europeans, even though they lived in cities, the cities caused mass disease. The cities spread mass disease because even though they lived in fucking buildings, because Europe was a very small place, the buildings helped spread mass disease because they didn't kill their rats and they had the Black Plague and shit going across their whole countries and shit like that.
Full of silver dollars on the floor and having every one of them land on its edge.
So nobody's saying, oh, we want everybody to live, everybody is equal, we want everybody equal. We're not saying that. We're just saying that thanks to international colonialism, shit is getting screwed up. And also thanks to mismanagement of leadership across the world, and mostly due to dictatorships and shit like that, a large percentage of the world is impoverished.
What does science tell us about this? Intelligence is under very substantial genetic control, and we're beginning to find out.
No, it's not. No, it's not, bud. You throw a man in the wild and he gets raised by dogs, he's gonna act like a dog. It's mostly in social control, as in if you have means to educate your child and a family structure, then you will.
Which actual gene variants make some people and some groups smarter than others. In a 2015 article in the academic journal Intelligence, PhD candidate David Piffer studied 9 different gene variants. Biologists call
9? Just 9, fucker?
these alleles that are associated with intelligence.
And only one scientist?
He chose these alleles because their effect on intelligence has been confirmed in several studies, and their frequency has been studied in quite a few different populations. The results are no surprise. Whites and Asians are more likely than blacks to have the most favorable combinations.
Really? So if whites and Asians are more favorable than blacks, then how come white people have higher alcoholism rates, not divorce rates, depression, higher suicide rates? I mean, a whole bunch of shit. Higher suicide rates, higher alcoholism.
These findings can be graphed like this. On the horizontal.
And just check out this graph. So this is the East Asian side. This is the European side. I see no Germans. I see no fucking Germans. Where the hell are the Germans at? This is, I guess, the Latin American side. I see no Brazilians. And I guess this is the African side, I guess. So he's just like not counting wide margins of people in this study. This is why it's fucking horrible just to do like studies like this. Wide margins of people, no Germans I see, are not included in this study. And I like how there's no Koreans also.
Axis is what is called a polygenetic score. This represents the effect of Howard Gardner, who was people want to suppress the truth. And this leads to the question, of white people deny the obvious and say there's no such thing as race? I think there are two reasons. First,
All right.
if all groups are basically identical, that leaves only one.
Okay. Nobody's saying that all groups are basically identical. What people are saying is that there's no objective way to measure race, as I said before. It's just whatever favorable tool you want to use, like the head sizes, neck length, skin color. I mean, all types of shit. All races have number of people with different hair textures, skin tones and shit like that. And really, nobody even know how many races are in this world.
Explanation for why blacks don't do so well, and it's white racism. You can blame.
All right, there's many reasons why many black people do not do so well. It has to do with mismanagement, mismanagement of trust, money, generational terrorism policies, generational wealth gaps. It has to do with districting. It's not just simply just white racism. White racism played a huge part in it, but it's not the only thing.
White people for black poverty,
Culture,
crime, HIV rates, etc., etc. And if you make...
I like how he mentioned HIV rates. Russia has a high rate of AIDS. P.S.
people feel guilty, you can get things from them. The other reason to pretend there's no such thing as race is to soften white people up for being replaced. Well, how does that work? Today, there is a huge...
What softens white people up for being replaced is feminism that tells women you have to have a career and not have children. So, of course, the white birth weight will go down. And, of course, more white people are getting older. So, after 65, you can't really work anymore. So, they need fresh, new men to work and actually pay taxes and shit like that. So, that's why.
People from non-white countries into white countries. Third world people from failed countries want to live in...
I like how Australia just have no fucking people coming to it.
Successful countries that they themselves couldn't have built. And white people are a soft touch. They have a record of letting in people from failed countries.
They have a record of also going in supposed failed countries and manipulating their assets, resources, and shit like that, bombing them, disrupting their leadership, causing chaos in these countries, a whole bunch of shit.
Especially people from failed countries. But white people are
failed countries.
This is not a good deal. People from Haiti or El Salvador, Syria or Algeria are pouring in. And if enough of them...
Check out this shit. Okay, so you can see that these people there surely have some white in them. I don't know what this group is or whatever, but these people look not too far from white. They look quite tan and shit like that.
Native white people will be outnumbered, and their countries will be permanently changed. However, if you can persuade white people that...
Get your birth rates up, buddy. Worry about the birth rates. Stop feminism. And that's how you're going to help.
There's no such thing as race. That we are all absolutely the same. Then it's okay if we're outnumbered and replaced. Because we're being replaced by ourselves. Of course.
By ourselves and shit like that. He shouldn't buy a house from me because he's not part of the family. I have the name Smith and he has the name Lewis. He's not part of the family. We're getting replaced by ourselves. All right, so that's all I like to say. Stop messing with this guy. If race realism is real, how come China is poorer than Sub-Saharan Africa? Just 100%. And a whole bunch of shit. I'll probably do a part 2 to this shit. because it's a very interesting topic. All right, goodbye.